episode 6. Perspective podcast. Clap it up for episode 6.
Yo.
Thank you. Yeah, so we few milestones already. Last week we reached 100 followers on Instagram and got about 26 subscribers on YouTube. So as we always start the podcast, we having fun, and that's what it's all about. One podcast, two perspectives. I'm Brian.
You know who it is. It's your boy Cale.
Is that your twin? Nah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, we're gonna jump into a lot of hot topics, a lot of controversial topics. But it's March 13th, March Madness. I'm not talking future, but hey, basketball talk. That's a myth.
Boo.
Okay. All right. So March Madness bracket just came out yesterday. Who you got? Who you rolling with, man? Who your 2023 champs?
As y'all know, I'm a Carolina fan. Preseason pick, number one of the country.
Real boo right there.
I don't know. I hope an underdog, a team that nobody thought wins it all this year, like St. Peter's last year. I hope that happens again. At this point, Carolina not playing in.
They didn't win it all.
I'm saying, but I hope a situation like that happens. Yeah, I hope the last seed upsets the number one seed. Like, I don't have a dog in this fight no more.
Let me look at the bracket because I know who I want to win.
Yeah, Alabama.
Because I want Alabama to win, but I low-key want to see Howard go on like a crazy run.
They made the tournament?
Yeah, they made the tournament. They said first time in like 32 years. Man. They made the tournament. Who they got first?
I mean, I know like
they don't play Alabama first. Who they play first? They play
number one seeds are like Purdue, Houston, Alabama, like Indiana, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, they play Kansas. It's a wrap.
Kansas.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap, Howard. But
is Howard the last seed? Yeah, they got to be. Yeah, they're playing number one. They got to be. Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about that? Because teams like obviously Carolina, they didn't make it this year, but teams that might not have won their conference, but they're not Power Five, like you got to win your conference to go to the tournament. And it's like, because there's so many conferences, so you only have half automatic bids, and then the other ones really go to Power Five teams that barely made it. So you can be a team that relatively had a good record, but since you're not in a certain conference, it's like, well, NIT, CBI, whatever that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely annoying. Like, like you say, you have a good record, but you lose one game and your season's pretty much over. But I mean, that's just how it's always been. That's probably how it's always going to be. You got to win the conference tournament to get to March Madness.
But then you got teams that have a choice to go to a tournament, but they don't.
They lame.
As a Carolina fan, let these folks know, like, how did that make you feel when you saw that from Hubert?
I've been a Carolina fan my entire life. I was born in 2000. Like, I've been a Carolina fan for 2 decades. That is the weakest move. People talk about KD going to the Warriors. That is the weakest move I've ever seen. Hubert Davis declined, in my opinion, he declined going to the NIT because he knows that Carolina was going to go to the NIT and lose because there's some dogs in there, and that would be more embarrassing for Carolina. So he said, you know what, scratch that. We're not going to the NIT because I know we're going to lose. We're not going anyways. NIT's competitive. They trying to make the tournament.
I feel like what he tried to do is to try to come off as noble. So follow me here. So our goal was to win the NCAA tournament, Like anything other than that is failure. But it's like reality check. And I saw some Carolina fans in the comments like, use the NIT to play some of your younger guys because you are infamous. Because last year, if it wasn't for Trez Styles one game?
Yeah.
Which I hope he goes in the portal, please. I said it on record. But it's like you had games where your bench had to save you because you're playing 7-6 guys every game. And when y'all got in the championship, Kansas just wore y'all out. Y'all were just tired. So I do feel like, yes, you got a Baycott. Caleb Love, I don't know, Leaky Black. Are they going? I know Baycott can't come back. Caleb
They're
Love,
all gone.
It's like, why not use
RJ
like people said? Why not? Your whole team is gone. Why not use that time to in the sense that okay, the season is not how we wanted it to go, but I don't want to end my season like that. Like I feel like you said, I just put up the white flag and said, hey, we had a terrible season and we don't want it to go any further.
I'm saying,
Like,
if you win the NIT, don't you go to the NCAA tournament?
nuh-uh. It's like a
I thought that's how it worked. If you win the NIT, you
nah
go
nah
to
nah
the.
nah 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 nah. The NCAA tournament it goes on simultaneously while the NIT goes on. It's basically
Oh,
it's just another postseason tournament for teams that want to continue. I mean, and I feel like for guys that are trying to work get their stock up, like I mean, I'm not a UAB fan, but I'm a Birmingham native, so I love UAB basketball, and they got some guys on their team like Jelly Walker that I feel like use the NIT as another platform to showcase and raise your stock up for the draft. I mean, it's like at that point, Kale, it wouldn't hurt you to go to NIT. You know what I'm
Hubert,
saying? Like it wouldn't hurt you.
you saying that Hubert saying no,
No, I
Hubert
feel
came
like
out. I'm saying, listen, Hubert came out and said they already focused on next year's ACC tournament, next year's March Madness. My response to that is I just looked it up. Y'all finished 11-9 in conference. So y'all barely finished above
mm,
500. Y'all finished
mm,
20-13 overall. Like have
but
you
that's
should.
not awful though. That's not terrible.
But I'm well for preseason number one in the whole country.
So
2 games over 500 in the conference is terrible.
I'm shocked that they didn't get a bid, bro.
They
Just
shouldn't.
knowing
They
how
shouldn't
biased,
have
no, just
though.
saying, just knowing how the committee works or
I
whoever the
think
committee
I
is.
think it was 3 or 4 times this year. Carolina was number one and lost to an unranked team. I know one of them was Iowa State. That was one of them. Another one I think was Indiana. They lost to. They were number one and lost to consecutive teams multiple times. But that's what I'm saying though. Like you talking about, let's be ready. We're gonna get ready for next year's tournament. Had that same mentality 2 months ago when y'all were struggling, when y'all were in that losing streak. Like he trying to act all big and bad like a dog now. The season's over.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it was more so.
You said trying
I
to be
think
noble.
I think they wanted the message to be portrayed differently. Like we're Carolina. We don't settle for the NIT. Go to the NIT. And if you as good as you think you are, dominating with the NIT, and it would have been a great year of what could have been. Now all we think of Carolina is y'all wasted a year.
A team that
I would
quit.
have respected them. Yeah, the team. I would respect you more if you would have went to NIT. But like I said, from Baycott standpoint, Caleb Love standpoint, it's just like for them. I wonder if they had a say so in it because you never know. Like as a team, as a coach, at that point with such a senior, just driven group, would you give your players that after the ACC loss, tournament loss, our fellas like we know that we probably won't make the tournament because the Joe Lenardi last for in, last for out, all that stuff accurate. All right, fellas, we know we're not in it. What y'all want to do? What if it was a collective? We don't want to play in the NIT. That's
If
beneath us.
if that's the if
It could have been that.
let's just say if that's the case, that explains the record. The lack of competitiveness explains the record. If that's the case, it
I
makes
just, I
sense.
just want to see what went wrong, bro. I mean, like talent was there. I mean,
I mean,
anybody and everybody said that Carolina gonna be back for
when you
sure.
think about it, Carolina really only lost one player, and that was Manic. That
But
was the
then
only
you think
player.
about it, the way he spaced the floor out.
Yeah, but I mean, you preseason ranked number one in the entire country, and you finished 2 games above 500 in your conference, which is the only thing that really matters, I guess, in sports is how you do in your conference. Like
Yeah,
that's a failed season. You don't make the national tournament, you lose in the conference tournament, 2 games over 500. Like you lose your national ranking, that's a failed season.
yeah.
And then it's like I mean, I'm still gonna be a Carolina fan, but they're probably not gonna go far next year or the year after that or the year like
Well,
it's gonna
they
take a.
always get some dogs in that recruiting class though.
Yeah, but this group is mostly upperclassmen, so a lot of them going to graduate, and the young guys might transfer. I mean, it's gonna be a while for Carolina back into it. Like they're
Yeah,
gonna have
I
some young
think
guys for a
I
few
think
years.
people gonna transfer.
Yeah, they're gonna have young guys for a few years, and then they're gonna be back to it. But like this is our chance. Baycott breaking the all-time leading rebounders record, passing
All
Michael
time
Jordan's.
scoring record.
Well, he passed Michael Jordan in scoring. I don't know if that's all
Hmm.
time, but like,
Oh yeah, he passed Jordan. You're right.
yeah, like this was your year,
Well,
and
roll tide. Alabama gonna win it all. Speaking on Alabama, man. I mean, obviously, if you're watching this and you're a sports fan, you've had to hear about the tragic incident with the young woman who was killed in Tuscaloosa, and Darius Miles and another one of his friend was charged with capital murder. So when the news initially came out of Darius Miles and his friend with the capital murder, everyone obviously was asking why, why would they do that? Innocent woman. And I read a few articles on ESPN, and it's a lot of details of what went down, what transpired. But a few weeks after Darius Miles, a former Alabama player, was charged, reports came that Brandon Miller, his teammate, they were together that night, and he actually drove to to the scene, and Darius Miles had his gun in the back, but Brandon Miller didn't have know anything about him getting his gun. So all of that situation came out, and for me and you, like, we talked about it, and the investigators were saying it's nothing that they could charge Brandon Miller with, because from what his attorney says, he had no clue that Darius Miles was intended to give his gun to someone else to, shoot and threaten somebody. Like, that was not even in his mind, Just think about it. Like, I mean, we were in college together. I mean, we weren't in the town of like a party town or a city, but guys go out all the time and leave stuff in someone's car. Like, like, hey, Cale, I left this in your car, right? So just initially when that came out, what, like, and you knew and you saw both sides, because one thing I didn't like was right away the headline said Brandon Miller was the one to give the gun.
I was about to say, like,
like,
they talk more about Brandon Miller than they do the dude that actually did the crime. From what his attorney said, long story short, Miles left the gun in his car, and then like at 2 a.m, he said, "Hey, bring my gun back into your car." And Miller drove to him. He got his gun, and then he left. Like,
it was a legal firearm.
Yeah,
another report says it was another guard, Jaden Brantley, and all of this stuff is out there. So, I'm gonna talk about the players in a minute, but it was reports that were saying that after that happened, like, shots were fired and then they drove off. But Darius Miles' mother, I guess she talked to authorities that her son had a gun for protection, so it was legal. As we know, Alabama. I mean, if you can legally have a gun, that's your right. But kind of what you're stating, like, I sympathize with Brandon Miller just because of the fact that it's just one of those situations where, and I know you hate the term and you hate the phrase wrong place, wrong time, but in his case, you're driving, somebody was with me. His attorney, I didn't touch the gun. I didn't have anything to do with the gun being handled, who was it handled, what happened with the gun. I didn't even know he had a gun, right? But now I'm being seen, jokes about, because, I mean, if we want to talk about basketball, because I don't want to be insensitive to the situation and the young woman's family, but if you want to talk about basketball, Brandon Miller is one of the best basketball players, if not the best freshman in the country. Probably go number 3 overall. But anytime he completes something, Brandon Killer, he sets up shots for his team, like, just comments, like, just childish stuff. And my only thing, I even questioned at the beginning, like, does Alabama and their athletic department want this type of attention? But the way that the guys have handled it, to me, is just like, you win the SEC championship, you're number 1 overall, and it doesn't seem like it affects them. And reporters are literally asking you about it almost every game.
Yep.
How do you go about? So, just from your perspective, like, do you think that Alabama athletic department should have, even if the authorities said they couldn't charge Brandon Miller with anything, do you think something should have been done, or they should have done like they're doing to let him play? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I think what they did was right. They didn't suspend him. Well, I mean, I don't know if he got suspended, but they didn't suspend him, kick him off the team. He's still playing and practicing.
Mm-hmm.
I think they handled it right. Like they said, the authorities said that he did nothing wrong after all their detectives and their whole team worked on it. His attorney said it was fine. It's no reason to hold him accountable for somebody else's actions. And it's like, I see people say stuff like, "Oh, he should have known better, to bring his drunk teammate his gun or whatever, to bring his teammate his gun at 2 a.m. Bro, the point of the story is there's something in his car that doesn't belong to him. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so now, let's just say that he says, "All right, I'll bring it back to you tomorrow." The next day he wakes up, forgets the gun is in there, and gets pulled over. It's a whole nother issue. Like, in my opinion, Brandon Miller did what I feel like is right. He returned something that wasn't his. His teammate being intoxicated, being an idiot, throwing his life away has nothing to do with Brandon Miller. The gun wasn't his. He returned it to his teammate. He returned it to the person who asked for his gun.
Yeah.
He did what I would do. I would do the same thing. I would. This isn't mine. I don't want something that's not mine that can get me in trouble in my car. Come back and take it. I don't even want to see it or touch it. Just take it and let me know when you've done.
Yeah. And I don't know if any text messages between the two said that, hey, you can go get my gun, or it could have been, hey, I left something in your car. Okay. Like you said, I'm still driving because it seems like they were, I don't know if it was after the game. I think it was after the game because Darius Miles the day before found out that he was out for the season with an ankle injury. So they just beat LSU by like 40. The college, they're going out. I mean, it's normal. It's just, to me, we have grown adults. And I'm not a commenter. I'm not really a poster on social media. I am a watcher. Like I see stuff, but I don't really comment, or I don't even like some stuff. But Brandon Miller the other day just passed College Texas for the most points in Alabama history for a freshman. Like he's at like 670 something. Like he's killing it. He does that, and the comments are just Brandon Killer. He knows how to set his teammates up for open shots, and they're not being literal. They're like talking about Darius Miles. Oh, and he's in a, he's in a accessory to murder. And it's like, after seeing the details and hearing the details and seeing that he was fully cooperative with the authorities and seeing that Darius Miles himself admitted, because his friend was the one that pulled the trigger, but Darius Miles admitted that he gave the gun to his friend. It's like it has to stop. But as we know, the internet, when he gets drafted and he goes in the NBA, like that's, to me, that's something that will never leave him. But the way in which he's had the poise to, continue to play well, continue to show his condolences and his respect to the family of the woman. I think the Alabama basketball department definitely, whatever they're doing in that circle, like that's something that you talk about. What's the locker room? Did the locker room have drama? Like you're going through one of your former players, teammates, friends, homeboys is going to prison for probably the rest of his life, and a few of your teammates are in the investigation, and you still have to go and play. The next game after the news came out, he dropped 41. Mm-hmm. And then another thing came out when he was the starting lineups, and they do the frisk celebration, like you put your hands out and they pat you down. People have been doing that
for decades. I don't had teammates do that. Like it's just a celebration, but go ahead.
No, you got it.
Not to transition too much, but it's like you see all this. Brandon Miller's got to be what, 19, 18? He's freshman.
Yeah, he's like 19, bro.
To see all this from a 19-year-old who doesn't want to be involved with any of that hurrah, rah, rah, loud noise, and then to see somebody like John Morant, who flashed the gun, wants to be this thug, this criminal, wants to be, I don't want to say somebody he's not, but wants to just try to be a harder image of himself, who's way older, he has a $200 million contract. He's way older, been in the league for a few years. Is in an
even got a new shoe deal.
Is in an even more precious spot with the NBA, one of 30 teams, one of 12 to 15 spots on each team. Like, and to see him want that lifestyle, want that persona, it's like, how do you have somebody that's years younger than you who's really in that situation? Obviously he didn't do the crime, but he's still in that situation. Like, how do he wants to be innocent, but you want to have that persona, that image of you, like, yeah, I'm hard, I'm tough. And I've said it once, I said it 1,000 times. I'm not saying John Morant didn't struggle. I know people posted photos of him and his family and clowning and stuff. I'll say it like this. If one of your parents, his dad, had enough money to build a basketball court in your backyard, and according to the little documentary that came out on John Morant, his dad had cookouts and they used to have parties on time on the basketball court and charge people to come over. But bottom line, if your dad can build a basketball court, has enough money to build a basketball court in the back of your yard, you're not struggling enough.
Yeah.
Like, we got enough excess funds to build an entire basketball court in the backyard. I know it's for your son to get better. You love your son, but y'all not struggling enough. That's all I got to say.
Right. I mean, that's a perfect transition because we see that a lot. We see the persona, we see the facade that hoopers or just people in general in life try to put up. And the situation with John Morant is definitely unfortunate because, I mean, we're talking about it, but we're not talking about it as in the sense of, photos were leaked out of now what, him that night. And it's just now not saying that what's happening is justified, but just to show like one decision or one act that you make can change your life for the rest of your life. And we see that now in his career. I mean, like I said, if it's up to basketball, one of the most dynamic, he's 23 years old. Like somebody was like, he was about to be the face of the league. Like it was about to be, LeBron's leaving. It's like, it's really Giannis's league. But young up and coming is that's John Morant. Is John Morant's league, right? You see that and you just say like, he's
Why
always
why
had
would
those
you
comments
why
of
would you want
like,
to jeopardize that? That's what I
yeah,
say.
because even last year he would tweet lyrics. Like people always say like, Ja, it's okay just to be like
Bro,
you know what I'm saying?
there was like one tweet he had said something and somebody on Twitter was like, "Why are you talking like that?" And he was like, "Cause I'll never let the money change me, bro." Like it's just something corny. Like it's
Yeah.
cringy. It's more cringy than it is people thinking you hard, bro. Like nobody talks like that.
Some people were saying like, well, it's Memphis, but it's like you got some people that might be on the street that respect you for what you got. If it wasn't because you were John Morant, Memphis Grizzlies, number 12, rookie of the year, face of the league for the young guys, they wouldn't rock with you, bro. So I think this and the Brandon Miller situation, I was just thinking of like, and I know my parents always tell me, just who you hang around, like you never know because your intentions might be great, your intentions might be fine, but Brandon Miller has received flack because, and like I said, that was his teammate, that was his friend, that was his, and anybody that's ever been on any type of team, if somebody has a car or doesn't have a car, if we go to a function, if we going to a party, we're going to anything, going out to eat, a lot of us carpool. Like that's just what it is. So
Going to
even me
practice.
saying this statement, going to practice about, watch who you hang around, but it's kind of sad because in John Morant's situation, I feel like the people that he's around is kind of influencing his behavior in some ways to where that's not how he would act if he wasn't around them. But in Brandon Miller's situation, him just doing
What's up?
everything he was supposed to do, but you were with a person that had bad intentions. Now your life has changed forever, even though you're free of, you're not incarcerated, but everywhere you go, people are calling you Brandon Killer. People are, it was Alabama fans, which I hate this, that have shirts that say we killing it in the SEC. And it's like insensitive,
But yeah, and
you at the
it's
free
like
throw line, Brandon Killer. Like,
then
how do
it's like
you cope with
y'all
that?
y'all trying to make him feel bad for something he didn't do, but y'all making fun of, in my opinion, the dead victim, calling him
It's,
Brandon Killer,
it's, it's
saying
disrespectful
yeah, like
for
you
sure.
trying to make him feel bad and whatever, or guilt him for doing something that for his teammates' actions, but you are in a
Hmm.
sense making fun of the victim and their family and their friends, like
Bro, because
making
that's
smart
what I said.
remarks like
Like,
that.
I hear more about Brandon Miller than more than Darius Miles, and
Yeah,
can't think of his friend's name, but that's the problem with social media. I mean, I love social media. I mean, this is social media, but you got people that got a profile picture of a water bottle saying whatever they want to say,
just trolling
protect it,
people,
trolling. And my only thing is, I know these are not 17, 18-year-olds trolling. These are 50, 40-year-olds, unemployed, have
12 year
nothing to do with
olds.
their life, and some of them 12. But that's a big problem because so many people are influenced. But you can like, and I love comments. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but if you got a positive post, 9 times out of 10, you can go through that post and find something negative. Like what's your saying? Like it can be good, it can be bad. Somebody will find something negative to say. Like somebody, just say they see a homeless person and they give them, why did you have to record? You don't want to be genuine. You did like it's like
It's just like
I
something I
like
saw.
seeing good news.
Just like something I saw, bro. It's like it said you could tweet "I hate cancer," and somebody could down and be like, "What about the other diseases? What about the other
Oh,
viruses and other
why
stuff?"
aren't you being inclusive?
Like, bro, everybody always gonna have something to say. Like that's why just be genuine and be a good person and keep doing that.
But
Like
then
everybody always gonna
but
have something to
then it's
say.
like you get into that PC culture, bro. Like politically correct, man. That's the sad thing about that is
Woke culture.
woke. You will not be able to make everybody happy. Podcast perspective. My family. You will never ever be able to make everybody happy. And we see a lot of those types of situations now when it comes to inclusiveness in a variety of ways. So we're definitely gonna get into that topic about uh,
including,
some
yeah,
controversial issues, but it's in a sense all boils down to just being okay with agreeing to disagree. And I'm in a relationship proudly. I'm getting married next year. Thank you. Thank you. And we've been together since middle school, and I'm proud to say that. But one of the biggest things I learned from a relationship is that you have to be okay with agreeing to disagree. And that doesn't mean you like disagreements or you like strife, but you're okay with knowing that I'm a human being. This individual I'm in a relationship is a human being, and we don't mind having our individual opinions about things. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean you're wrong. And just because you might disagree with me doesn't mean you're right. But we have a balance and we have an understanding that we're individuals. And so this topic and this boiling desire to talk about this is one of the biggest reasons why I feel like we have issues we do now in our society.
but yeah, man, talking about wokeness and just including everybody. One of the biggest topics in America, especially with laws getting passed, it seems like every day, every week, is transgenders. And I mean, the LGTBQ plus stands for, I guess, anything else that they add to it in the future. That's one of the biggest. I'm not gonna say issues, but just one of the biggest topics in America right now. And from it being taught in schools, and these are some things we're going to get into. From it being taught in schools, about being gay or being transgender or being queer or being any of those letters, to people going into bathrooms that they're not biologically genders of, to people switching sports from competing in women's sports to men's sports and vice versa. I think recently somebody won an award that people were questioning, how did they win that award? I mean, it's a plethora of things we could talk about. And so I just want to get your overall thoughts about the transgender wave that's going on in America, and then we could break off into different topics. I got stuff I want to say too, but I'll let you get a crack at it first.
Nah, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying, differing of opinions. And as adults, and keyword adults, definitely get onto that. I mean, I don't mind hiding. I'm a spiritual person. I I believe in. I mean, I believe we all have free will. We all have the choice to choose decisions we make. The things careers we choose, the way we identify, and specifically what we're talking about. In the process of that, I feel like we talk about this society, this politically correct culture. Things like that subject is so taboo. Like you can't talk about it because if I have an opinion and it's different than yours, then I'm homophobic. I'm transphobic. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I can't disagree with you without it being seen as I hate you. Or it's you got it.
Let me say this real quick. You can go right back to it. Just like me
Yeah.
and Brian said earlier, do people know what a phobia is? Like transphobic means I'm frightened or I'm scared. Like me disagreeing, not saying me, but like somebody saying that they don't get along with trans people or don't believe in their rights, or don't believe certain things to trans people, doesn't mean they're scared or frightened of them. Like people just throw words together and run with it. But go back to you.
Yeah. So it's like, words like that could be thrown out. So an individual like me, when it comes to that topic, not saying I could really care less, but in the profession, like I want to be an attorney. If a person that needs, representation happens to be homosexual or something, that won't change the way that I treat that person, right? I don't have to necessarily agree with the way you identify, but that doesn't change the way I view you as a human being, because in the day you're still a human being. I believe that God loves all, regardless of how we identify.
Mm-hmm.
My thing it comes down to is when it comes to people trying to force you to agree with them.
And if you
That's to
don't,
me
it's a problem.
that's to me where I feel like as humans, as we talk about free speech or we talk about freedom to believe, it's your choice, just like it's your choice to identify the way you do, the way I identify the way I do. now you even see on job applications, employers, organizations kind of have to, what are your pronouns? Which that's how people identify, but don't make it a forced act for somebody to accept or agree with the way you identify. We can still coexist without agreeing. And and that's the biggest thing for me before we get into the specifics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like
and I mean,
what's your response to that though? Because we see
just
a
like,
lot.
I mean, I just want to know, like, when did all of this start? Like, I'm not saying, people have been gay or queer, they've been
Yeah.
any of the letters since the beginning of time, but like, when did all this really take off? When did trans people or just the LGTBQ plus organization really start rolling? I mean, I don't know. It's like kind of like Brian said, like, I don't have no beef. I'm not scared of nobody that's gay or transgender or anything, but it's just like I don't have no beef with nobody. Like, kind of like he said, like, I could really care less. Like, someone being gay, being transphobic, I mean, somebody being gay, being transgender, being any of those letters does not affect my life. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, personally, I don't mind if someone is like, if someone is a woman, but I think he's or she is a dude, and they want to be called ma'am. I don't mind saying that. Like, that's not gonna
Yeah, that's
add too
true.
much stress in my life. But like he said, the problem is when people want you to sort of play their game and abide by their rules. Like, and then I mean, this goes into anything, and it's also funny when you throw that logic back in their face and they say no, 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 that doesn't make sense. But it's like, especially with the right to identify as anything, whether you are it or not, whether you were born it or not, whether you got an operation, took some medicine or it or not, the right to identify as anything, you can see how very quickly that can get out of hand.
Facts. And that, bro, and that's perfect transition into the specifics because we preface what we're about to say with no hatred, no disdain toward anybody how you identify. But when things start to change and start to adjust because of how people start to think that are unnatural, it's like now we got to draw the line. So starting off in schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and kids, whether they're parent, guardian, grandparent, uncle, it's a lot of people that aren't necessarily parents that help raise up kids to be the best they can be. But kids need assistance when they're growing up, and
Mm-hmm.
kids can be, in a sense, manipulated to think a certain way. My biggest gripe with a lot of this inclusive stuff is that we have parents. We saw this the other day. A parent or
Mm-hmm.
parents said that their 2 or 3 year old
Two going on
wanted
three.
to two going on three wanted to identify, was it a boy to a girl?
Yep.
And as we know, like they said something about we saw how he liked shiny things. If you know any boy, boys
Nigga,
like stuff. Boy, your little boys,
just
they see
kids
some mud, they gonna jump in it
just
and
kids
play.
in general. Kids in general, real short attention span like a goldfish. They see something, they're on it. They see something, they're on it.
Yeah, and that's my biggest thing is like to me that's the most important when one day I want to have kids, you want to have kids. Like, how do I know and I trust taking my kids to school that they're not being taught and manipulated to think a certain way?
Mm-hmm.
As a parent, you 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 can't control your child when they get older, but what you can do is to lead them up in the right way to where one day when they're able to make their own decisions, you can respect that and still say, hey, they were taught right. Now it's their job to decide. Kids don't have the mental capacity to be able to think certain, to think about, okay, this is what I want.
Complex thinking, yeah.
You can be manipulated to think a certain way. So you have teachers giving students materials about transgender or this or that. You're eliminating that free will, that choice that we talked about at a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
You had a choice to believe and identify as that. That's your, but you're forcing it on kids
Mm-hmm.
that are kindergarten, first grade. To me, that's sick. That's
Mm-hmm.
sick, and it goes down to where that saying that that's sick is not saying I hate a certain group of people. Where is the choice? You eliminate the choice, and as
Mm-hmm.
a person that wants to have kids in the next few years, that's very scary because how do you teach your kids nowadays to know that, hey son, and what we believe, that's not the way of thinking that we in a sense want you to have. It's like a slippery slope, you know.
And it's
I'll let
like,
you go.
I got two things. For one, briefly addressing the thing Brian sent me the other day, where it was a young boy who I guess now at the age of 3 years old is identifying as a girl, and they did a whole interview with his dad and stuff. His dad said word for word, "My child," I think he said my daughter. He probably said my daughter, but my daughter will never go through normal puberty. She's wanted to do this for a while. She told me about this, yada yada yada. She likes shiny things, certain things. My thing is I'm a criminal justice guy. From a legal standpoint, it's a very known well fact that kids cannot consent. So how
Facts.
so how can a child, and again, this is two going on three. How can a child say, yeah, I want to have a complete operation change? I was born A, but I want to completely change to B. Like, how can a child just voluntarily
Your brain not even
say
developed.
that, say that, affirm that, and believe that? Like, that's what Brian's saying. It's got to be some manipulation. Like, and we're not saying that kids can't be gay or kids can't like certain things, but for a 2 year old to just out of nowhere say, I want to be a girl and know the difference between the two and know exactly what that means, like, you mean to tell me there's not any outside influence, whether it's from the parent or somebody else? Like, second thing is, as Brian was saying, it is scary, when you're teaching your kids certain things and they go to school and learn the opposite. And then this is really what I want to get on. It's funny to me that before we can get schools to teach the truth about America and teach, just more, I don't want to say harsh topics, but just more of the truth that George Washington's teeth weren't wooden,
Mm,
yada yada yada.
mm,
Uh,
mm, mm,
we get or Christopher Columbus didn't discover America. Before we can get
mm.
those two things, stuff like that, we get, hey, do you know what the difference is between a man and a woman? Are you gay? Are you straight? Do you know what queer means?
Wow.
Define transgender. Like that's the mind blowing thing to me. It's like we've been fighting. We we have been fighting to
Yeah.
teach the real American history unbiased, whether it's good, bad, ugly, all the above, for years. And I feel like the whole LGBTQ plus thing has been, fairly recent compared to that. And it's like they getting that before we can get the truth about America. My kids are learning what gay, lesbian, queer, transgender means. Like, we getting that before we learn the history of the country. That's my
Yeah.
biggest gripe. Well, one of my biggest gripes with it. It's like, how do we get that before the other thing? And this is, fairly recent.
Yeah, honestly, it's really inappropriate for the school setting. If it's specifically for school, it's inappropriate. I mean, even stuff of you wouldn't show at a 5 year old if it was a kissing scene in the movie. I know
Yeah,
some parents say, "Hey, close your eyes," or they'll turn like it's whether that's between a man and a woman. It's just certain things when a child is developing that, and I do feel like social media, sadly, with TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you let your kids hands on that too early, they're gonna see stuff and you can't control it. And that's the sad part. Another sad part about it too, which is another fear of being a parent in this generation, is that
listen,
you cannot censor everything. Like you can put a YouTube made for kids, or you can do that. It's still stuff that slips through the cracks. It's still stuff that can be said, or they might see on somebody else's phone at school. So my last thing about
the kid topic of the whole transgender umbrella.
yeah, it's like yeah, perfect. That particular family that we highlighted, that 2 to 3, that transition from a boy to a girl, that is all that social media is about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it kind of goes to the swimmer. I forgot
Leah, I think it's Leah
I
Thomas.
forgot Leah Thomas's Leah
I think the
Thomas
last name is
name. Now
Thomas.
that's
Yeah.
the name. I just saw it.
Mm-hmm.
When it goes into that, why is everything that you post about that? That's why I know it's not what your child wants. It's what you want as a parent. You want this type of attention, and I know it's psychological. It's psychological. No, really, it's psychological
Yeah, yeah.
disorders for parents that have that mentality of the attention they want through their kids. But if you go on that parent's TikTok, all the life of being a transgender mom, like,
They
come
make it
on.
more.
I thought this is what your child wanted. I thought this is
They
what they chose. But
they
you're
make it
making this
more.
your life.
Yeah, and it's
It's
like
it's really sick, bro.
they make it more about them than their own kid. It's like, I mean, even watch the interview with the dad. Like, the dad, it just seemed like he was, for lack of better words, clout hungry. He's all excited, talking, all happy to be doing the interview. It's like, I don't get it, bro.
Yeah.
Like you say, with parents who have social media pages, every post is a day in the life of a transgender mom, a day in the life of so and so. It's like
Yeah.
you vlogging. Shouldn't you be talking to your kid and getting your kid to help? I'm sure your kid could care less about you vlogging and recording their life. Like,
And then it's like, who's to say this child grows up and looks back on this? I wish that never happened to me. And as parents or as friends or whatever, people, like I said, people have been coming out like you brought up since the beginning of time. As parents, I don't think anyone should shun their kids if they get older and they make the choice to say, "Hey, mom, this is what I identify as. I might not agree with you, I might not see eye to eye with you, but that doesn't change that you're my child. I still love you. In spite of that, it just eliminates all of that choice. And we talked about Leah, talk about Leah Thomas. We can actually go into in depth now
mhm.
about how I feel like the narrative is, to me, is more than just about this is what I want to identify as.
Clout.
Because Leah Thomas, yeah, Leah Thomas could have identified as that, but never, but kept swimming with the men. To me, it seemed like it was more about this is what you want to identify as more than versus this is I want to make history. Like I want to win this championship. But then I got to get on the politically correct culture of society because you got like I said earlier, you have two sides to this, right? You have a side that says we want to be accepted, we want to be inclusive, we want everyone to feel the right to identify the way they want to, and to give them certain freedoms that they deserve, right? And then you got another side where, like I said, I didn't find anybody that had any positive to talk about Leah Thomas saying that how you have women, natural born women, who train all year against, and it's nothing against women versus men. We talk about how the psychological, they're not the psycho, the way that our bodies were built. Women's bodies were built for childbearing. Men's bodies, our bodies were just built differently. Now I run track. It's a women out here that's smoking men. I know it's women that swim that's smoking other men. But when you get of the elite to top of elite, women have even said there is a very physical difference between a man's body and a woman's body. So that other side you have where we want people to be accepted, but then the same thing that you open the door for the opportunity. So now you're upset with Leah Thomas, which I don't agree with what Leah Thomas did. I don't feel like it was right. I feel like it was clout chasing. It was hungry. It was dismissive to the women that worked hard to be there. But the opportunity is there.
Mhm. And I
So
mean,
now, how are we gonna be upset now that it's affecting it? But inclusive, opportunities, this and that. It's just like, where do we draw the line? Is my question.
it's like I know the other day, or I guess a few weeks ago at this point, I saw one of the actual other swimmers that was in the thing with Leah Thomas, and they said like she said that the event organizers came to her and like, all right, y'all both came in first place, but for the sake, like word for word, for the sake of the photo, we're gonna have her hold the trophy. And she was like, if we both came in,
Wow, I
if
didn't
we
know that.
both
I didn't know that.
if we both tied and we're both in the same place, why does she get a picture but I don't? And the event organizer was just like, for the sake of the photo, she's gonna hold it. And obviously the girl was saying like her and her friends and her peers and her family was upset because like they felt cheated. And it's like that's what we saying, bro. Like, and I know I saw another example. We talk about men transition to women's sports, and I think Leah Thomas, when she or however you want to phrase it, was how they were born, they were like
Mm-hmm.
last in men's swimming, like if not dead
It
last
was
in like
like 340 something.
yeah, like bottom barrel, and then immediately
Mm-hmm.
immediately they jump to the top, the very top of the women's swimming. But it's just like, okay, if that's the game we're gonna play, we talk about drawing the line. What does it stop somebody like Floyd Mayweather from saying, you know what, as of today, March whatever, 2023, I'm a woman, and then 2 months from now he goes and does women's boxing. Like, what's to stop him from doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what we're saying. Like, and like I had asked Brian earlier, talk about drawing the line. Is the line drawn where you have to have a few operations? You have to have
That's
on
facts.
medication for a while. Like I told Brian earlier, what's to stop, not me, but like, what's to stop a regular dude like me from going to the women's bathroom from now on, just saying, I identify as a woman. You can't tell me no otherwise. Even though
Mm-hmm.
that guy may have had no previous operations, no upcoming operations, hasn't been on any medication for hormones, anything. He's a regular dude who just says, to be an asshole, to be a troll, I'm gonna go in the women's bathroom and just say I identify as a woman and can't nobody stop me. Like that's what we're saying. Where do you draw the line? Like, is the line
Mm-hmm.
like I said, medical procedures, or is the line just a thought? If I think I'm this for the day, that happens. and
Yeah.
everybody, no matter what they believe, has to accept it.
And you hit on something perfect earlier. When did people identifying what they want to identify as turn into changing the status quo of how everything works? And I know it's been things about which a lot of I think a lot of people kind of were upset with Disney because I think they allowed that in their bathrooms and through like I don't know what show it was, but I heard rumors about something how a show had a gay couple on it. But when I was going and watching Disney, I don't. I mean, you might have seen the mom and dad maybe kiss every now and then, but some people's arguments, well, they have mothers and fathers on the dynamic, but it just goes to like, where is it trying to? Has it been to start and affect the thinking of how you have to accept this, you have to agree, not accept, you have to agree with this, and that's the big thing. I feel like you can accept somebody for who they are, but not agree with them,
Their lifestyle,
and
yeah.
it's that it is. I feel like that's just human nature. That's just like that's just like a career choice.
I
You
got it,
got
bro.
go.
It's like I got friends that drink and smoke. I accept them for who they are, but I don't agree with it and I don't participate in that. It's just like that. I can accept your actions and who you are as a person. I just don't agree with it. Simple as
I
that.
think you hate them, bro. You gotta hate them.
That's a perfect Kale comparison.
That's perfect. But like you said, man, it's just scary because like what's stopping it now? And it's a funny article that I saw today. My professor brought it up in class. Fox News, ironically, Twitter laughs groans as Jill Biden gives biological male woman of courage award. And someone was joking in like a tweet and said, "Up your game, ladies." So like as a joke. So so
Up
so
your game,
so
ladies.
so you have a woman of courage award. Now I don't know, what that courage means, but it goes back to the thing where I say, follow me. I have my two sides, except inclusive, you know, and then how can a biological man be more woman than a woman? That's the question. That's a question. That's not no hate to the person, but a woman of courage award is given to a man that says he wants to be a woman or has transitioned to a woman. It just gets to the line to where now, it was a woman in my class actually said it like women have been fighting for rights for years as we know. Now they got to fight against men for a woman award. It's like goodness, like
That's
that.
that's perfect.
That's just I know.
That's perfect.
That's just the thing where all we're saying is, and obviously this might blow one day. People might try to twist words. You can go back and listen to it. Nothing we're saying is hate speeches. It is just asking the question. In 2023, we see a lot of these things. We talked about parents, forcing their kids to change genders. We talk about sports, how men transition to women to dominate the women's sport, and we talk about
Transition.
awards, yeah, that and we see it as jokes, but it like the word to me is scary because the way you think, the way you
Mhm.
talk, the way you interact with people that might not identify as you, you could lose your job or lose a certain status you have because you might disrupt or make a certain group of people upset by what
Or,
you say,
or,
and
or,
it's
or
your opinion. It's your
misidentify somebody. Yeah. And it's
oh.
and it's like it's like
What you think about? Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, ask the question. I want to
No,
answer
I
it.
was saying we see that a lot because I mean, I'm applying to jobs, but what do you identify as? And you see some people on their LinkedIn or their Instagram, Twitter, he, him, his, she,
They,
her,
them.
they, them. Like I know I've seen so many funny pronoun videos, like what it is, what is hilarious. Like what are your thoughts on the pronoun thing? Because
Bro,
that kind of all relates.
it's like I was saying, bro. Like if I or an individual has the right to identify as anything, because I'm a firm believer that it can start with gender and sex, but it could broaden into anything. I'm gonna identify as a millionaire, as a genius, as king,
I
as
wish.
non-taxpayer, as smartest man, best looking man of the year. Like that's what we're saying. It's like when you open the door to you have the right to identify as what you want and don't have to prove it, but people have to accept it. Okay, I'm king.
Yeah.
I'm president. I'm CEO. I walk in here. I'm the owner. I'm the manager. Like that's what we're saying. Like, and people laugh at it and say it's silly, but like You open up the door. I can
Open up
be
the door.
I can be who I am right now, and then let's just say, to the extreme. Tomorrow, I walk into a girl's bathroom and say I identify as a woman. Like there's people out there doing that. Or I can say I want to go play women's basketball. It's 6'9", 200 pounds, and proceed to go out there and have a 20 and 50 every game. Like
130.
that's what we're saying
And
though.
then it goes to think from a legal standpoint, bro. It's sad, but in law you talk about precedent. So if I have a current case and it's a murder or something, I'm looking back at past cases as a lawyer or as a legal professional to see what laws or what things were decided back then that I could use in this case. So now, what if somebody did what you said? Hypothetically speaking, they're a man, they haven't transitioned, but they should identify as a woman. And just say a female say that they fear for their life, they file a police report, it gets to a legal standpoint, and that person, in a sense, wins the case, or some legislation is put in place that just like a stand your ground law, you have a identify as whatever law. And now somebody that's a predator that is going into this bathroom for the wrong reasons uses that, and this is very hypothetical, folks, but just follow me here. Someone uses that. I'm just saying this. I don't feel like this is too far fetched. Mm-hmm. Nothing is stopping someone from doing that and going to court, getting a lawyer and say, hey, let's fight it and say my right of being whatever identify as were infringed upon, and I want something to protect me.
And then
what
it's
is
like
stopping anybody from doing that?
And then it's like we so early on in the process, you could set a precedent. It's no precedent
But
set.
that's
Like
the
you could
thing.
be, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could be the first one. So that's what really makes it even more realistic. You could be the first one. It's no precedent set. You could be the history that gets changed. Your case could be the case that changes the world, or America at least. Like, but yeah, it is. It's scary, man. I mean, we can go on for this about ever. Like, I don't mind to keep talking about it. Like I said, the biggest thing for me is, where do you draw the line from when it's a right to identify to you're just being a troll?
Well, I mean, the visibility of the subject, like with transgender, I mean, you have the president and his wife giving out a national award. I don't know about the Women of Courage Award. I have to research more on it, but from just in America, I mean, which we know he's not like seen as the high, but the representative of our country, Joe Biden, and his wife, the face of the country, from what other people see, gives this type of award, news is out, and it's like, kids are inquirers. So even kids that, like I said, bro, even kids that might not even think this way now are starting to see stuff like, hey, mom, what's a transgender? Like, those are questions parents got to ask now. They didn't have to do that 20, 30 years ago.
And then when those parents say, don't worry about it, we're not going to talk about it, or try to answer it, that kid's going to go to school and more than likely learn about it in a different definition or different way. So again, that's what we're saying. Like, not only are you forcing us to accept it, but you're just forcing it down our throats. You got to learn about it in schools. You cut on. It's like I said, we don't hate these people, but kids got to learn about it in schools. We got to see it when we cut on the TV. When we go to a pot of jobs, they ask me about it. I got to learn everybody else's pronouns. Like,
that's what we think about from an employer standpoint.
That's what we're saying. Like, you have the right to, I guess you have the right to identify as whatever you want, I guess, but people have the right to, it's consequences for your actions. Like, you may have a right to do something, but somebody has a right to have an opinion about it or act a different way about it. Like, it's your right to say you identify as whatever. Somebody has a right to have an opinion about that.
So when it comes to diversity and inclusion, how much would you consider LGBTQ plus to be in that category? Because I mean, I know you want to be a businessman, I want to be a businessman, and that constitutes working with different people that might not think the way we think, but end of the day, our same goal, business, handling that. How much of that in that realm of you have an organization does that come into diversity and inclusion? Because ever since, a lot of things happen in our country, organizations always have to have precedent or protocol in for diversity and inclusion. Do you consider that LGBTQ plus to be in that category?
I mean, it's like it's hard to answer because they, that group community claims they want to be treated as normal, but like they literally do the most stuff to stand out. So I mean, I don't know, like, I don't know. I guess the answer is I don't know. Like
Mhm.
I don't know.
I think, like I said, to me, hiring somebody obviously is off criteria, and we see a lot of people that might be of a certain ethnicity or a race might not be hired. I feel like I said at the beginning, it boils down to, if I'm an employer, how well can you do the job? What are your credentials? Don't make how you identify as your selling point. That's my only thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can hire anybody. You know, you work yourself. You do what you have to do. This, like, I just feel like this is one of the biggest things to where your personal just interacts with your professional. Like, even somebody like, I'm engaged, getting married next year. I just feel like even stuff like that, that's not even something I might bring up at a job interview. But
Hmm.
in some regard, somebody might say, well, I've heard someone say in an interview, unwarranted, somebody say, well, I'm gay. What's your work experience?
And it,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and then it's like if let's just say you're the CEO or the boss or the hiring manager, and you don't hire somebody from the LGBTQ plus community, what's gonna happen? Transphobic, homophobic. Like
well, but
that's
how could they say that though? Because people don't get hired all the time.
yeah, yeah, but people, people are gonna assume that, oh, I told them I was transgender and then I mysteriously didn't get the job. Like they gotta be transphobic. Like
But like I said, bro, in some the way that certain people identify, it doesn't take a genius to know that you might identify something before you even tell me.
hmm
That's all I'm gonna say. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you're applying for a job, you're applying for a position. How well can you do it? What's your work experience? If you meet the criteria, I shouldn't judge that off of, well, this person, that's not right. You know what I'm saying? That's not right. But that's just my only thing of where it's just like, it shouldn't have to be such as, I guess, such a taboo subject. Because even talking about it now, I'm watching my words, because people have said far less in headlines. So and so, so and so.
hmm
Can't, like, it's just like, come on, like you said, where is this energy for other stuff? Like, why have we had this fervent intensity on learning more valuable things? Because it's even issues now with colleges and some high school legislations are saying that they don't want certain colleges to teach certain things about history, like, critical race theory, or certain things related to that.
hmm
And that's like big time. You got governors saying, I don't want this to be taught in schools. But
hmm It's interesting, man. We got an interesting world ahead of us. Like I identify as non-taxpayer genius, best looking man you've ever seen, and
man,
you have to respect that.
yeah, I'm just thinking like 20 years from now, man. Like, it's scary, because obviously parenting in each decade or era is different. But this technology, I mean, you got AI, Chat GPT, like,
AI that
you
can do
got.
everything for you.
I mean, I think there's some nice stuff about AI, but it's. I mean, this subject, I feel like this was a healthy conversation that I would honestly, bro. And I don't know anyone that's transgender. Honestly, I want to hear the perspective of someone
Hmm
that's transgender, and hear their thoughts, because I feel like some people that have identified as that, but that didn't affect their whole life, or that's not their personality trait.
hmm
I want to hear what someone would have to say about, the subjects we talked about today, because that's what perspective is about. It's not about
hmm
having, because I mean, we both see eye to eye on this subject for the most part.
hmm
I don't mind having because going back to agreeing to disagree, I want to hear some perspective on that different subject, because it's just like, just what do you think, or how
Uh-huh.
do you feel like what we're talking about? Can you relate to it? You're in the position that we're talking about. How does it
And
make you feel? Like, stuff like that.
and I mean, it's like from the short clips I've seen on Instagram, when they bring a group of people together from who are straight, and then obviously 10 letters I'm not going to keep saying every time. They bring a group of those people together, and they have a conversation, and something
Mm,
I kind of get annoyed with. It's like I'll just be blunt. Like some people in that community, they just so my way or the highway. Like they'll have a conversation with somebody who's straight, and the straight person's trying to talk to them. They're not going back and forth. They're having a mutual conversation, and they're saying, "No, if you don't accept it, then you're just transphobic. You have to accept it."
Mhm.
Like they're just so, I guess, aggressive in trying to prove their point, regardless, and not even
But
have a
that can't be all
conversation.
of them, bro. That
Yeah,
can't be
I'm
all
not
of them.
saying I'm not saying that. That's what I said in the short clips I've seen. But it's just
Hmm.
like we talk about getting perspective and agreeing to disagree. Both sides or all sides have to be willing to have a conversation. I
That's a
can't
fact.
go in here thinking no matter what happens at the end of the day, I'm right and everything I say is right. I'll never be wrong. And everybody else is wrong. And I think that's the issue people have. It's like you literally can't even talk about it because you might offend somebody. And two, when you talk to somebody, whether they're straight or LGBTQ plus, they already got their minds made up, and that's the issue about it, bro. Like we can't move forward because you might offend somebody, or you literally can't even have a conversation because somebody is so stubborn.
I just think of how many subjects that exist. Like we can't even talk because you trying to get your point across when it's
You try
like
to
I
make an
said, listen,
argument,
like
yeah.
what do you feel? What's your perspective? What's my perspective? End of the day, we can both leave with I don't agree with you a lick, but I understand you a little bit better now. And bro, it comes down to like as a world in general. I mean, I feel like that can solve some world problems.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying the world will be perfect, but it all boils down to being a human. You have to know you have decisions, you have free will, just like the next man, the next woman, the next person, and you have to me enjoy the individuality, enjoy the differences because that's what makes the world to me a great place. But if you think of any time that we've had strife, we had world war, it's because of disagreements, because of differences, and not accepting the fact that it's okay to be different. Like how many wars could we have avoided if it wasn't for people just saying that, of voicing their opinions and their differences and agreeing to disagree that hey, you know what, this is not something that we can do. And conflict, I mean, conflict is inevitable, but it's just even talking about this just makes you think like what's for the future, like
What's
what's
coming?
next, like
What's
what's coming.
coming?
So man, we we went in, we went in. Hopefully we don't get canceled.
Come on, bro, chill. Don't even put that out there.
But nah, man, it's the world is definitely a wonderful place, but it's things that happening as we see with social media, just influences of how people think. It's just making you it makes you question a lot of stuff. And the thing that I hate is individuality is being lost. You have people that have personality. They're questioning, if they're good enough to do something, or if they want to accomplish a goal or accomplish a dream, when you shouldn't be looking at someone else's life or someone else's goal or someone else's path as the way for your path. I mean, that goes where being a content creator, being doctor, lawyer, professional athlete, like choose your own path. And
Mm-hmm.
the more we evolve, the more we advance through social media, through technology, the more we're starting to become interconnected. Like you're in Ohio right now, I'm in North Carolina. I mean South Carolina. That didn't happen 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so that type of stuff brings positive things, being able to be connected with people across the world instantaneously, but it also makes life kind of speed up and feel like things should happen faster than they should just because of how much access we have. And
Mm-hmm.
as you know, with success, that's not necessarily the formula.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of successful people say some of the like most boring, like if you get like a guru or somebody that's rich, hey, well, it's one successful thing, be consistent. It's like, of course
Work,
you gotta be
work
consistent,
hard every day.
work hard, put time into your craft. It's like, but we kind of lose sight on that side of life just because of what we see, how fast we see it, how easy we can get this information. Like even stuff with college, it makes you think like, I could Google all this, I could YouTube all of this. Why am I paying 20, 30, $40,000 for stuff that I don't really need you for? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's getting to that point, and things we talked about earlier, like transgenders, this stuff that so much stuff is becoming visible, and it's so much stuff to cause people to think about, and that all that stuff to think about causes stress, causes anxiety, causes depression, and now you have just the influx of stuff in your brain, and you don't even know what to focus on. You lose yourself through the mess.
Mm-hmm.
So
And,
I
and,
said a
and
lot there, but
then you go out in public. I mean, you don't know how to act. Like you don't want to hurt nobody's feelings because you don't know who's what or how people are feeling today. Like it's I mean, it's like you said, bro. It's scary. It's scary for the future, you know. But I mean, there's also a lot of positive stuff upside. You know, things are getting easier. I guess more automated. You know, with all the AIs out there. You know, we're definitely progressing. But it's the future. I can describe it as certain uncertainty. You don't
mm,
know if it's gonna be really bad, really good, a little bit of both. But it's certain. It's gonna be uncertain.
it's certain. And it's a new definition every day. You get on the internet, it's something new you learn. Oh, this is
Yeah.
the new thing. Oh, I guess this is the new protocol. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And I'll say this too, you know, when we're talking about transgenders, there's a lot of old ways of thinking that I really wish people would drop. Like
oh,
the people, in uh I guess support of the trans community and all that, like people think people can't be gay, you know, a lot of older people have that back statement like, bro, it's a new day. Granddad, my friend is gay, or granddad, so and so is gay. Like that's not impossible to happen these days. So I definitely like that, you know, with the LGTBQ plus community, like it's changed. The word is changing. Like we are evolving, we are changing. It's no longer the traditional ways of thinking. Households aren't traditional no more. The way you learn is not traditional no more. This is more common nowadays than a textbook. Like the
yes,
world
sir.
is changing, and I wish people would be more open to the idea of change.
Open to the idea to change. You don't have to hate somebody because they want to change or something. I mean, it's fun to learn new things, to inquire about new things, but it's also like this conversation we had. Don't be afraid to have conversations like this. And
Mm-hmm.
in society, we need more conversations to where people don't have to be afraid, or people shouldn't. People need to. This needs to be a trend. Individuals not apologize for something that doesn't deserve an apology. An
Mm-hmm.
opinion is an opinion. A thought, obviously if it's respectful, if it's thought through, like you shouldn't have to apologize because someone is offended because you didn't fit their narrative. And we just have way too much of that. And whether you're a public figure or just a average person that's working at a job, anything you say, you tweet, you post, you like, you share, can be up for grabs for the public to criticize, to throw tomatoes at. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's something that obviously you gotta have, because it's stuff that I might say to you in private that I wouldn't tweet.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's stuff that I'll say to my parents that I, you know what I mean? That's for everyone. But when you're in the public eye and social media, as we know, how much storage and Dropbox and cloud, like this information ain't going nowhere. If someone want to
Mm-hmm.
old video you, if it was deleted, they can get it.
Yep.
So gotta be careful. And it's just, topics like this obviously are sensitive, and we hope, if you stayed through the duration of this video, we hope that nothing was offensive. We know that's not any of our intention, but just the conversation, and that's what we need. We need different perspectives.
We need conversations, people who are
We need
open to
conversation.
having genuine conversations, not
Yeah.
going in
So
there and trying to run the room or control the room. I'm going in here open
sure.
minded. I may have some thoughts in my head, but I'm going here open minded and I want to have a conversation.
Yeah. It's anybody in the comments. Let us know things tonight or that we talked about in this episode about your thought, your perspective, whether you agree, whether you disagree. Like it's okay. We even talk about on our Instagram. We love comments and interaction, whether it's agree or disagree. If we can have a healthy conversation, you don't have to agree with me. Keep it
Yeah,
respectful. Let's chat. Let's talk. What's your perspective? Here's
yeah,
mine.
yeah. Like you said, as long as the conversation is
As
healthy,
long as it's respectful. If it's
yeah, we
not, we're
don't.
getting blocked.
And real quick, disagreeing is not disrespectful. I had a famous coach say that a few years ago. Disagreeing is disrespect. We can agree to disagree. You can believe Earth's flat and believe it's round. Don't mean we have to hate each other. Like
But hey man, but Episode 6. That's a wrap. I feel valuable stuff. Some golden nuggets in here. There's some golden nuggets. I'm not talking Denver.
Oh, my brother, don't get us started.
Come on, man. You know I do. But
Tomato.
Episode 6, one podcast, two perspectives. We appreciate y'all for watching. Stay tuned for episode 7.
Mm-hmm. Make sure y'all check us out on Instagram. Appreciate
y'all.
Instagram. Links in the bio.
the.perspective.pod. Check us out.
Yeah, we post pretty much daily on there. I mean, if y'all want to see more of us, we're just not getting to YouTube Shorts, but Instagram is where we're most active. I'd say. So yeah, appreciate y'all for watching.